it is time. It is time to unlock the major reward from the Ancient Shadow event, because today we are going to be hatching REISK and UMBRA, which means that Glom will be added to our collection. Well, we'll be unlocking him at least, and then we'll have to hatch him. But without further ado, let us begin with REISK. REISK has a very, very pretty egg, and a lot of people actually really liked the design of REISK. You know, it kind of sucks that REISK's elements aren't fantastic, but REISK here, being one of the Ultra Divine Dragons, means that we needed REISK for Glom, Ancient, Shadow, and Wind. The problem with these elements is that Shadow isn't really the best these days, and Wind can be okay, but it's not necessary for Dungeon. But that does mark Dragon number 3, and there we have it. Congrats, you have successfully finished the Glom Rising and earned a reward. We got the Glom Dragon. So of course the reason why everyone's after dragons like Glom is because even though Glom isn't the best because of his shadow element, he's still got that ancient and divine element with really, really high exception stats. So even if you don't have any use for his shadow, you could still use him for his divine bless and his leech. So I'm happy we got him at least. But anyway, a descendant of REISK flew to Earth just before shadows overwhelmed the sun, destroying dust storms and saving lives. Out of all the Shadow Ancients, it seems to understand humans the most. So, a descendant of REISK. I mean, they do kind of look similar, don't they? They've got the eyes, they've got the sort of similar body shape and everything. I can see it. I can see it. Except REISK is much bluer, and some would say much cuter. I mean, this looks okay. This looks kind of terrifying at times, but REISK, I like the blue. I'm a big fan of the blue. Imagine having a bright blue tongue. Have you ever had like a slush puppy and had that happen to you? We could all become a little bit like REISK if we want to. But anyway, I am going to level up REISK here up to, I'll probably level up REISK to about 25. Just because I've been adding a few extra levels to the Ancients, just so that I can find them easier. But there he is, eating up all of his delicious food. Look how big those horns are. I've never actually realised this before, but REISK has huge, and I mean really long horns. I didn't actually ever notice them before. Of course, he's got the snazzy anime boy hair, which is very agoo. But yeah, unfortunately REISK is just not a fantastic dragon to use on a team. If it was the only dragon you could pick out of the event, you would have been better off probably with Homala. But hey ho, it is what it is. We've got Merca and REISK sitting in that ancient habitat over there. So our job with those two is done. So, of course that does mean that we've got Glom in our collection. So I'm going to add him to our hatchery. And then we'll see his terrifying egg, which will take another 4 days to hatch. So basically, it's just an endless stream of hatching Ancients towards the end of the event, where you've got to hatch these two, so either REISK or Merca, you've got to wait 4 days for them, and then you've got to wait 4 days for Glom. Just endless. If you don't have 3+ hatchery slots, you're probably not having a good time. But the other dragon that we have, of course, is this bad boy egg. And the thing about UMBRA, which you'll see, is the fact that UMBRA's egg actually moves. I'm not sure why, but they decided to actually animate the egg for UMBRA, which I don't believe there's any other dragon egg that does this, or there may just be a couple of them, but it's kind of terrifying, don't you think? Eerie, even. Looks like a living weird plant organism to me. But anywho, let's hatch this egg, and then out comes Mr. Dark UMBRA. So UMBRA does mean, I believe it's shadow in a few different languages, but UMBRA being shadow, light, and metal does mean that you can actually get some usage out of this epic. If you manage to get this epic as a relatively new player, you could use it on a team. Because metal can be useful in dungeon, light's really useful, and shadow just gives it some of those extra base stats, really. But the UMBRA dragon is nearly incorporeal, and quite placid despite its eerie looks. It hides in dark corners of lamplit rooms or streets on cold autumn nights, and may be mistaken for a trick of the light. I mean, yes, it's like they're defying the laws of lighting. You know what I mean? It's like they shouldn't be that dark, but they have become that dark. almost like a black hole. They've created a black hole within themselves, and they just like they don't shine back the light anymore. Well, you know those materials that scientists create that just do not intake any light whatsoever? Maybe that's what Umbra's made of. Interesting. That could be true. What do you think, Umbra? Is that true? Unfortunately, Umbra does not appear to speak human tongue, apart from when they're in the middle of the event. But outside of that, I don't think Umbra can actually respond to me. Very sad. Very sad. But ultimately, Shadow Ancient event went quite well. We did have to commit a little bit of gemicide to do it. But again, the fact that I didn't actually have to spend any money on the event is fantastic. I'm happy about that. But little Umbra here. Little Umbra, we will probably never look at you again. But look, you can definitely see Umbra in like that habitat there. It's just so dark. Terrifying. Creepy, even. Sorry for calling you creepy, Umbra. I didn't mean it. But essentially, now that we have committed gemicide, the goal is going to be to essentially get some more gems and not have the game crash. There we go. I was a bit worried there. But a way that we can get more gems, of course, is going to be doing lots of ruin explorations. I cannot stress enough how many gems you can get from doing ruins. The only problem being that the ruins obviously can basically force you to not be able to do them anymore at a certain level if your dragons aren't a high enough level. But I'm still having to do medium ones for the top 3 and hard for the bottom 3. So I'm okay for the most part, but you get lots and lots of gems out of this over time, so I highly recommend that you do that if you need more gems. The other thing that we could do is dungeon for lots of random gems. We could get times 100, of course, but I'm very, very burnt out on dungeon. Very burnt out, so I'm just sort of leaving it for now. I don't care enough to do it this week. The other thing that we do have at the moment, which some of you have probably seen, is Movie Marathon. And honestly, Movie Marathon is a good idea because you get relics and gems out of it. The only problem being that a lot of these ads break for me. And the thing is, it's basically you have to wait a set amount of time to watch an ad, which is probably the most boring concept for an in-game event I have ever heard of. But you do get rewards for it, so if you really care enough to watch 30 ads, you can get some gems. At 10, you can get some relics of hatching. At 5, you can get some relics of breeding. But it's like you're basically waiting for a lot of time to not even do anything gameplay related. It's just to watch the same Disney Magic Kingdoms ad 18 times. That's like literally all that event is. But don't forget that this week, if you do still need any pieces for any of the event dragons, or even if you wanted, say, a duplicate for any reason, we do have the, what's it called, catch-up dungeon going on at the moment. There are pieces for October in here, which I barely have any pieces for October. I didn't spend any this event, but technically I should be doing the catch-up dungeon because there's still the chance for a full drop of October, I believe, or at least big drops for these dragons. So I should probably be doing it, but I'm not doing it. But it's very, very unlikely. If you didn't manage to get the dragons during the main part of the Shadow Ancient event, or if you're not like, say, 10 pieces away, chances are catch-up dungeon isn't going to be, it's not going to work out for you. But, you know, you do you. We've also got pieces for some of the other dragons in here, so these are mainly the bingo dragons and things like that, like Snow Queen, Bromelia. I've already got all those dragons, but you can buy some additional pieces, but 99 gems each! I swear, the Sail Whale and like the other things in game that give additional dragon pieces are just way too expensive. Like, I get that it's something that we never had before, so before we had 0 chance of getting them, right? But at least make it attainable. 99 gems per piece is just, like, extortionate. I guess the argument will be, well, you didn't get it during the event, so, like, you suck. So it's your fault. But, like, there may be a reason why you didn't get them. Maybe you didn't want to do bingo because it was detrimental to, like, getting Umbra, for example. I don't know, I just think the prices are a little bit extreme on those. They basically just turn into pay-only dragons for the most part, usually, when they get into sale whale. And then it's sort of like, but then wouldn't a paying person have got them during the event anyway? Unless they're going for like dumb spenders that were like so bad that they couldn't get them during the event, so they're hoping that they'll spend more after the event. I don't know, weird. But, you know, that's Whalemart's hot sister. It's just the way that things be, it appears. So, no fighting that. You know, obviously some things in the game are going to be pay to win because it's one of those games. It's not like I expect absolutely everything in the game to be free to play, acquirable in a game like this. I would of other games, but not of a mobile dragon collecting game like this one. But it's just, even for paying players, it's a little bit extreme paying out so many gems just for some random epics or, you know, an old legend. Especially when, you know, we've got ancients and divines these days. But to be fair, out of these events, we do get lots of new dragons that come about. We do get lots of other returning dragons, so I'm not complaining too much. You know, people get a decent selection of dragons. It's just, I think people need to understand, if you've come from other collecting games, like say Pokemon, or say Monster Hunter, or lots of other games that are like collection based, this isn't a game where you can get everything free to play. You cannot. It is not possible to get every dragon in this game free to play. In fact, I think there's about 100 and probably 130-ish dragons, somewhere around there, probably between like 120, 150-ish dragons that are impossible, and I mean literally impossible to get without actually spending money. Because they're locked behind bundles, or they're locked behind VIP, or they're locked behind other things in game. So, if you're looking for a collection game like that, this really isn't the game for you. Like, this game is just get what you can based on what your circumstance is. If you want to spend, you can. But make sure you do it in a smart way, because there's lots of things that you could spend money on in this game, but it would just be a waste of money. Like, a massive waste of money. Of course you can waste your money if you want, but you'd probably be better off spending it on something else. Investing it. You know, keeping it for a rainy day, rather than just wasting it. Well, that's my take anyway. You know, if you got loads of money and you can spend it on whatever, do whatever you want. As long as you can easily afford the whatever you're spending, I guess it's not really a huge problem. It's just, I've met lots of people over my time in DML where it's like, they clearly cannot afford to be making in-game purchases like they do, and they do anyway. So it's just something to be aware of. I've seen it happen. Like, I knew a person that used to spend 90% of their income every month on this game. So they basically just went to work full time just to spend all of their money on DML, and they had no savings. And I remember this person messaging me, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you could just not do that. And their excuse was, yeah, but I like it. It's like, okay, but can you afford food? And it turned out that no, they really couldn't. In fact, they were going hungry some days, and they were like, oh yeah, I can't really afford food right now. I'm thinking, well, you can certainly afford food for your dragons, holy. Anyway, that was a more extreme case, but the reality is it does happen, and it can creep up on people. So, if you are someone that has spent a lot of money on this game, again, I'm not going to shout at you or anything like that. You can do whatever the heck you want, but just be careful. Don't get sucked in, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Don't get sucked in by microtransactions that won't even help you, mainly. Like, if you want to spend on things that are good value. Spend on things that are actually going to help you in-game. Spend on things where, if you spend on it, you might actually win, say, weekend events or other things in-game. Because I just don't see the point of spending money on things that don't give you any value whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like, going for a duplicate in the arena? Is there any point? Like, I know people are still cheating in the arena, but there's lots of people still spending in the arena for duplicate dragons, and all I can think is why? Is there any point? Not really. And you can waste the money if you want. Anyway, I digress. That is just my quick tidbit. I guess me seeing a couple people this morning having a similar discussion about basically just wasting their money for no reason has just reminded me. So, you know, I'd say it about any game. It's not just a DML thing. You know, I've said it before to people regarding other games. Like, you see people waste their cash in Genshin all the time. You see people waste their cash in CSGO all the time on weapon skins, which, you know, weapon skins, they don't affect the game, so I actually don't mind those microtransactions or loot boxes as much. But at the same time, if you're spending like 80% of your income on like a singular game, you probably have an issue. Probably, not always, but you probably do. But anywho, you know, games like this are designed to manipulate people. They're designed to get as much money out of people as they can. Same with most products. It's just obviously people that are really not good at holding back their urges get really, really screwed over by loot boxes. So things like the ancient events and divine events. So, I'm happy that I didn't have to spend anything this event. Some people would have had to because either their dungeon team sucked, maybe they didn't save the gems, they don't get MVP, that sort of thing. You know, it depends. There's lots of different things or factors that go into how successful you can be in DML events. Main one being, does your life schedule align with the events? If it doesn't, you're probably never going to get dragons like Glom. I'm lucky that mine basically is within schedule by about 30 minutes. It can be stressful trying to fit it within, considering that, but hey-ho. I don't know why I'm breeding for a duplicate cockerel. I guess it's because I've got nothing else to really breed at the moment. I could be going for harpy and elephant breeding attempts, but I don't care. I don't care enough. But should really be breeding lava and wind together whenever we don't have anything to breed for that Dragon Master Pass, but I'd rather just play Farmville, to be honest. But anyway, for now, I appreciate you joining me. We'll be back eventually with Glom hatching, but this week I'm probably mostly going to be taking a break from DML related stuff because, you know, we've just had an entire month-long event again. We had to do more dungeon grinding. And we got that new cheesecake dragon coming, so if you want to be prepared for that, I don't want to be burnt out. But anyway, I hope you got everything you wanted out of the event, and until next time, I hope to see you then.